my grandmother Velma, Rosie, Ida, Ola, Beulah, Roxy. Yes, that's your line too, that's funny. The spirits are like, yes! Name the spirits, I'm thankful. You can't make that shit up. I was told a lot of things. I was told a lot of things growing up, that women are the only ones who are effeminate, that can express their femininity. Women are the only ones who can cry. Women are the only ones who can dress a certain way, wear certain clothes, watch certain things, play with certain toys. I was told a lot of things, and through that was really navigating through a lot of violence when so many of the spirits I named imprinted on me. Imprinted strength, imprinted care, imprinted laughter, imprinted cooking, imprinted singing, imprinted being seen, imprinted sharing your emotions, imprinted strength, imprinted self-sustainability. All of these things by women imprinted on me that the world was saying, only women, only women. So growing up really shaped a very concrete, reinforced a very concrete understanding of women and men and the binary, particularly. This concrete, this or that binary that said don't or said do and says why? Why are you acting different than what we're telling you? Why? So to move through, I had to really ground in the imprints and ground with the spirits of the people around me. Ground with my mother, who was like, do what you need to do. Ground with my grandmother, who was like, yes, cook with me, please. Like, let's go. In, because we got 50 people, we got to eat. Chop these up in. You know, we have this recipe. And I'm thankful for that tether that was very strong, that was unwavering for me as society and outside forces tried to remove me from my center. And it still did a really good job trying to push me. But like a magnet, it attuned me or aligned me to the core of what my identity was before I had the language for it. And I've been thinking a lot about how language, identity, and gender coincide, particularly around now. So I'm thankful I'm able to share with you. A baby in my community was recently born, and on a sonogram showed that they had a vulva, they had a uterus. And because of that, there was a shifting of language that reinstilled an identity of this being before this being even came out on earth. And that confused me because I came down here to disrupt gender, to shake things up, to push other people off of the center, to push society off of the center and say, what ground are you standing on if you are removing people from the core of their being and not allowing them to explore and expand outside of labels simply because you're comfortable with them? And that was recent. I named the coinciding of my gender, identity, and language came to me quite recently, around 4 years ago, I was presenting in a very femme way. I'm going to pause for time real quick. It's so dramatic. You can't even hear. That's right. It was quite close. It was at the steps of City Hall. I was protesting in response to police brutality. Riddell Jones was the being who was killed. And in her name, we stayed out there for 56 days collectively. I was out there for 28 of those. I don't even know if it's in that direction. We said her name, and it was in that space that I showed up all in all of me. It took a while to get there, but I showed up with myself, with my medicine, with what would make me feel comfortable in that space with all of those people. And I showed up and people saw me. And I remember this trans woman, she was like, I think you're trans. And I was like, no, I'm just me. What's good? I was like, no, I really think you need to look up third gender. There's an ancestral connection with you and third gender that you need to research. And I researched it. And it was like a deep bell, a resonant bell rang within the computer. I Googled it, it was Wikipedia, y'all. I was just scrolling down and I was like, oh my God, like there are millions of people outside of even Western society that disrupted and are continuing to disrupt gender and the binary and roles and labels from the ancient timelines of that disruption, and that allowed me to breathe and gave me language for things around my gender and identity that I was feeling here, but not necessarily processing here, and not having the language or the words to even communicate what I'm feeling. And there's so many people like that can't communicate, that don't have the language, but are feeling it resonantly here, but don't know how to explain it. So I did that research. I reflected on myself. I was reflected in her. She named me. And I didn't have trans friends or a trans community until 3 years ago. And I'm thankful to say most of my friends are trans. And I'm thankful because they're even in the reflection of us being so held and receiving so much information in that exchange. It's also a reflection of how violent the world is towards bodies that disrupt gender and disrupt the society at large's comfort. So I was reminded and reaffirmed that you are not a woman because you have a uterus. You are not a woman because you bleed. You are not a woman because people think you, or it is your body's duty to have a child or bring children into this life or take care of children. That is not what makes you a woman. These beings with those bodies and with those organs resonate and align their bodies with words and gender and identity that allow women to come through them and take up that space. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for these women that I named. I'm thankful for Marsha P. Johnson for shifting and renaming and reclaiming, reimagining language through their bodies. I named Marsha P. Johnson, and I also want to name a dear friend of mine recently who passed away, a trans woman, Camila Concepcion, like 2 weeks ago. This retrograde was like walking backwards through water. And I really feel the weight of labels and people not saying, or people saying you're not woman enough. You're not passing enough. If you're gonna say you're a woman, you need to put on a dress and you need to shave. And I am thankful for those women. I'm thankful for the women that I named. I'm thankful for the non-binary folks who continue to shift language for me and challenge me to challenge others in language and how we can still use language and still disrupt it at the same time. It's ungrounding for me, and it brings me a lot of joy to break up the ground that I'm also standing on. And I am a disruptor. I came down onto this planet with a hammer in my hand to break and disrupt. I am thankful to be doing that in this space. And I ask, I challenge, I intend that from that breaking of the ground like a new moon, us raking the earth, that new things can flourish and thrive, that new aspects of womanhood and of beingness and of identity and gender and language and people can start to burst through. So I really think of the generations that are bursting through and even changing what we've gotten comfortable with. I've gotten comfortable with things. There's a generation that is going to shift me, and I welcome that. The baby's name who was born is Rhythm River Forest. And I pray for them, and I pray for the community around Rhythm, and I pray for this land, and I pray for space to explore. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the women in my life who have allowed me to do that, and the women that I named here and I named on my heart as well. I think that's about it. Thank you so much for listening.